Shout out to the old school, back in the days. Missing all the good times, don't let the memories fade. Shout out
Welcome.
to the old
Thanks for checking us out. This is Ryan and
Jesse.
we
Hello.
got news and views right here from the core of Regent Park and beyond.
A brief history. So, News and Views is a show that used to be done by a fellow named, I believe, David Wall. And the purpose was kind of, bringing local perspectives on local issues, as well as kind of issues that were a little more further afield, kind of in these concentric circles of starting in the Regent Park, what's happening in Regent Park, and what do folks from in and around Regent Park think of those things. And then kind of, on both of those fronts, expanding, regions surrounding Regent Park, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and then up to international. There was a lot of, kind of like political content, I think kind of strong, relevant issues,
Right.
social things like that.
Social things, interviews, mini sort of audio documentaries.
Yeah, a lot of clips of recordings seemed like they were the main content at the point.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hoping to kind of learn from the past and move into the future.
Well said.
Yeah, and kind of going off of what Regent Park is, I guess, because not necessarily everybody listening to this might know that, because this is internet radio.
Well said. And we should also mention that, internet radio is an important thing because we can get messages out there. And in the past, typically, the media wasn't so generous in terms of reporting issues and topics out of Regent Park.
Yeah.
Which is why one of the main reasons that Regent Park Focus was created, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you want to go over some of the history of Focus Media and how it came to be, or?
Sure. Oh, let me just see here.
So we're totally biting off the website, which is great.
Is that okay? That's okay, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, we are the same thing by extension, right? So
Right.
we're not.
So as we were saying, Focus Media Arts was essentially created to diminish or dispel negative media points that were spoken about in terms of the location of Regent Park.
Mm-hmm.
Here at this Regent Park Focus, we seek to empower marginalized individuals and underrepresented communities to have a voice through the use of professional training, mentorship, and participatory-based media practices.
And you yourself are kind of part of that, right?
That's right. I can mention a little bit about that. I'm actually originally from downtown Toronto, have a background in arts and some broadcast TV through TV Ontario, but I really am fascinated and interested and champion social change, which is why I'm taking a community worker program through George Brown, which then connected me to Regent Park Focus, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's super awesome. I'm glad to have you here. I would not be wanting to do this by myself.
Well said. And Jesse, can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I mean, I always have a hard time kind of zeroing in on what things actually matter. My background relating to, I guess, why I'm here is back in my university days, I got involved with my campus station, which was kind of on a whim thing. It's a hybrid community campus station, which is super cool. Non-commercial, obviously, but super, I don't want to say liberal, because liberal has a lot of bad connotations these days.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe rightly so. But it's really about the content creators. They provide basically a platform for anybody, as long as you're going to, abide by the law,
Mm-hmm.
to do a show about whatever anybody wants to do, as long as you can actually come in and make the show happen. So I got involved with them, and I really took to that ethos. I thought it was really cool. It really fosters an idea of community engagement and creativity. And it's okay, well, it's not about making content that fits with the image. It's
Mm-hmm.
about just supporting creators, and then the people who take to it and like it stick around. And then obviously, kind of as a corollary, or rather consequence, people get involved with the community on a deeper level kind of through that. So that was many years ago that I was doing this regularly, come to think of it. And this is my first time back in radio, actually in a booth for a very long time. And I, resonate with kind of these core principles of
Mm-hmm.
focused media, about social justice, kind of trying to dispel myths in mainstream media
Mm-hmm.
and support the community in creating their own voice, right?
Well said.
Like that's such a crucial thing. It's so great that they have all these high school kids in here, like learning not just media literacy,
Mhm.
but media creation
Yeah.
techniques. It's like this is so essential. Like
I
it's
agree.
beautiful.
Because coming from a professional background with TV and film and stuff like that, I noticed that world is very closed sometimes to community. And like, how do people actually get training behind the camera or in studio if they're not necessarily working for some kind of big studio? So I think independent organizations like this are really important, as you said.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Do you still listen to the radio?
Sometimes, not very regularly,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
In part because I don't have a radio,
Okay.
and I am a big fan of like the switch on the little box and see whatever is just happening to be over the airwaves at any given time.
Yeah.
But also like the kind of radio and stations that I tend to like, there are very few of them.
Okay.
Back when I was a teenager, I would listen to Q107 and all those things. But now, like, I have no interest anymore. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff.
I hear you.
So I want to listen to a station like this one. So
Yeah.
I'll probably start listening quite a bit to Regent Park, or Radio Region rather.
That's cool.
But not necessarily otherwise. How about yourself?
I used to, for sure, AM 640 and all these things. But something that I'm finding with mainstream radio, at least, is that they're playing like the same pop songs over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think some media outlets are afraid to say certain things.
Oh, for sure, because it's all tied to money, right?
Right.
I don't want to make the sponsors angry.
Oh no, we don't want that. Anyhow, so we have a little bit of power here, don't we?
A little bit, and with great power
Comes great responsibility.
Yes. There were a few, I don't know if this is something that you think would be worthwhile, but some of the key points in the history of the emergence of Radio Regent, some of that stuff seemed pretty kind of pertinent to me, given the context of like, oh God, there's no like one word or one term that I know of, maybe you can educate me, that I feel like encompasses the breadth and depth and significance of issues that a community like Regent Park are faced with. I want to say like social justice, but I feel like that's such a term that gets thrown around a lot these days.
Right.
Is that even what I want to be saying?
I know.
I don't know if it is what I want to be saying. Is there a better word or sentence?
I mean, yeah, it's a tricky one, the whole social justice thing. We can say that out of Regent Park, there are many different communities living here, right?
Yeah.
That certainly need representation and often don't get that, which is really cool that we can kind of delve into some issues and maybe have some interviews. So I guess in a way we're kind of social justice people.
Okay.
Through the act of broadcasting out of here.
Okay. All right. So I wouldn't be like totally misusing that term if I was to say it anyway.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
Funny how these terms have become, good or bad or they're used so much in the world now. Like I've heard somebody say that I shouldn't use the word the term social justice warrior. It's become a bad thing.
But that's like because of alt-right, isn't it?
I think you're right.
Like it's bad to care about good things.
Right.
Like, sure.
Right. And speaking of radio and broadcasting and outlets and stuff, there seem to be a lot of alt-right media sources out there.
Are there?
I hate to say it.
Any in Toronto?
Any in Toronto? I'm sure there are.
Oh my.
So it's good that we can have a voice and maybe counter some things that are being said.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's certainly a lot going on in Toronto, isn't there? Socially.
I mean, I'm kind of living under a rock half the time, so
okay.
Maybe. Oh wait, I mean, that as true as that is, we've had many conversations in the past couple of days about what is going on.
That's true. And to go back to the living under a rock thing, I think that is very. A lot of people are doing that. We're still in a pandemic. Technically. And I've been kind of like looking at how that's sort of affected a lot of people in Toronto. It's affected me in terms of I've I was a homebody before, and now I'm like a super homebody. I don't know if it's like an unconscious feeling of that, there could be another pandemic coming along or something. But I think it's okay to be protected and live under a rock, or to have been doing that.
Yeah, and everybody has like, different needs and is in a different situation, right? And
Well said.
I haven't ever actually experienced or even witnessed this kind of thing, but I'm always seeing signs in places about like, be kind and don't assault people, which I don't think I remember seeing before. And
Right.
like, is this a thing that happens? I mean, I guess it must, otherwise these things wouldn't be up. But like, nobody's ever yelled at me for wearing a mask, and
Yeah.
nobody's ever gotten up in my business and whatever. And I'm like, I'm glad that hasn't happened.
I think that's good.
Has that happened to you? Have you witnessed this?
It hasn't. No, nobody's really objected towards me, wearing masks in public or whatnot. But I will say that issues around vaccination have been certainly talked about in my family.
Okay.
Without going into pure details, there's different conflicting views, you could say, or there were conflicting views about getting a vaccine in my family.
Sure.
So I kind of had to step in and mediate some arguing. But yeah, I mean, I think pandemic, vaccinations, mask mandates have really affected the city. On a whole other note, in terms of being polite and not, there's been a lot of violence going on in the city and in the subways.
Yeah, it's become. I mean, this kind of ties into the show in general, but like this is one of the things that Regent Park was. I would say outside of Regent Park, we're primarily known for.
Right.
I wasn't actually. So I grew up in the city, same as yourself, and I grew up in the West End though, so I wasn't really familiar with much beyond one's walkable world as kids are wont to be.
Right.
So like to me and to people that I knew growing up, probably more so into like high school, teenagehood. The bad area, and I'm using gratuitous air quotations, which y'all on the radio can't see right now, that we knew of and would talk about, but like not in a disparaging way. It was just what would come up would be like Jane and Finch for us. It's like, oh, Jane and Finch is dangerous. Get shot if you go to Jane and Finch. Blah blah blah. All that nonsense. Which is funny because I don't think I had ever actually been to or even passed through Jane and Finch, whereas my grandparents used to live in Peterborough. And going there regularly, I would be on the Greyhound, which would go right through Regent Park.
Okay.
And I had no conception of like, what Regent Park was or how dangerous it may or may not have been. Right. And it's just like, I feel like it's pretty illustrative of how reputations and hearsay and just like, I don't know if I can swear on the radio, so I won't for now. Bad talk.
Yeah.
Bad talk and just kind of like, just extend its poisonous tendrils beyond whatever and, escape reality and just bleed into common perception.
I think you just said it very well there, how things, misconceptions and bad talk do bleed out into various locations and certain ears. I too grew up in the West End around Spadai and Bloor area and was already sort of warned, be careful out there. But then I used to do a lot of auditioning in the East End, so I was always taking the bus right through Cabbagetown and Regent Park, and got to sort of witness a little bit of this redevelopment.
Oh yeah,
which is certainly a topic in itself.
Yeah.
But you could say over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a lot of change happening. And the building that we're speaking out of, the Daniel Spectrum building, is certainly a wonderful creation, I should say, out of the redevelopment, because this is a creative hut, isn't it?
Yeah, this building has been here for a decade. Is that right?
Before I say yes or no to that, I'm going to have to check.
Okay.
But I believe you're right.
Okay. Roughly a decade, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That boggles my mind because, as I was saying, like, to me, Regent Park is those old 3-story brick buildings that are in these kind of funky shapes that there's fewer and fewer of every week.
Yeah.
And when I moved back to the city a bit over a year ago, I hadn't been in this area since like longer than a decade. and I didn't really understand where I was.
Right.
And I was like, what are these buildings? I know that this used to be this area because there's still some of them, but
Yeah.
like there's a massive modern condo right across the street. What's happening right now?
Yeah. Condo City. You know what, Jesse? It would be really cool in the future to do some interviews with community members, because from what I know about the redevelopment, it's been a really exciting and neat time, but it's also been a time of displacement for some people, and great change. Yeah, I mean, brick buildings where families grew and were created are literally being bulldozed down, aren't they? Or have been.
And, residents who have been here, all their lives ostensibly are not really necessarily, at least on paper, being displaced, but there seems to be maybe more to that is like, not on paper.
Right.
And, these are just some of the things that we'll probably be getting into in more detail as we continue the show. I think, for now, like, there's so much going on, like, in Regent Park, which is going to be our focus. We want to talk about what's happening here.
Yeah.
We want to try and give spotlight to the reactions of those here about what's happening here, reactions to, rather. But, some of these issues, like, just do bleed into the social fabric of the city beyond that, right? And this like the violence thing, Regent Park used to be this area that was known for its violence, but now Toronto is just becoming more and more known for its violence.
That's right. Oh my gosh. Well said. I mean, and look at all the news broadcasts about subway violence. There's been a whole bunch of incidents happening, haven't there been?
It's like on the internet, people are making comparisons to New York in the 80s, but then other people are quick to jump in and be like, not even close. Okay. And, I've never been to New York, so I can't say.
Okay.
But, somebody giving a statistic, which I didn't look up on Reddit, of, the murder capita in Toronto currently being like 2 per 100,000. Whereas in New York in the 80s, it was like 25 per 100,000. And like that's worse.
Yes.
However, you also grew up in Toronto.
Yeah.
To me, things feel a lot less safe, and like there is a lot more violence happening than there used to be, at least, in a few decades ago. Do you also have that sense, whether or not you think it's true, whether or not it's true?
I think it is true that, after this period of pandemic hell, excuse my language, it's certainly affected people. It's highlighted income and inequality, and there's a lot more mental health issues that are being presented to us, as well as addiction. And you've got the TPS approving a huge amount of money being injected into them, and then into the TTC to potentially, I guess, act as security, right?
Yeah, even though the TTC has its own security, but whatever.
I know.
It's like we're just going to not go that route for some reason.
Yeah, and I think that we should mention that this whole policing thing in the subways is kind of a temporary Band-Aid solution.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have been saying, and I feel like the money should have been, used more for social services, right?
Yeah, right. Like it's a similar thing to healthcare. It's like, okay, well, do you want to throw a bunch of resources at treating the symptoms, or do you want to get to the root cause and cure the disease?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, so there's people committing crimes. You're gonna just arrest them, but crimes are still going to happen, so you're just gonna have to keep arresting people, and like this is not a long-term solution.
Right. And as we were just talking about, housing and affordable housing and the lack thereof is a huge issue. Like, I've been reading that a lot of those that are unhoused are now using the subway as a place to sleep and kind of live for part of the day.
Right.
And it's just so blatantly obvious that we need more affordable housing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I see you have some juicy looking details about some of the things that we were just talking about. Anything jumping out at you that you want to share with me and any listeners?
For sure. We were talking a little bit about policing in the city, and particularly in Regent Park. And I didn't realize that the Toronto Police Service has started a neighborhood community officer program, Jesse, which you were talking a little bit about yesterday in one of our meetings, and did a little bit of research on that. It was created to, connect more with communities and put a little bit more of the heart in the police officer instead of having people fear them.
Yeah.
I think it's being well received to an extent, but then I also read an article that was saying, particularly in Regent Park, that maybe they need to do a little bit more work in terms of connecting police to the community. It's one thing to have officers, lining the streets or walking around, but are they really being connected?
Right. Yeah. So, like, what are they? I guess what are they trying to do? Like, what's the main driving factor in this initiative that's trying to like address this problem more, like from the root? I guess.
What they want to do is essentially, and this is from the mouth of a TPS officer, which is to mold and make more bridges, repair bridges that were broken.
Okay.
But then we have some people in the community, for example, a resident and social worker, Joanne Warner, saying, but we need more neighborhood officers that can actually take the time to get to know the community, because there's not enough of them.
Right.
So, I mean, I hate to say it, but money comes down to a lot of things, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, yeah. In this current system, which I don't think is going to be abolished any day soon,
right?
For better or worse.
Yeah, well said. In school, I've been learning a little bit more about the concept and word neoliberalism, which I do not like at all.
I share that sentiment.
Yeah, and so I guess it could be said that efforts are being made slowly to reconnect with communities in Toronto, in terms of the image of the police. But that a lot of work needs to be done. Maybe the TPS, Toronto Police Service, is sort of rejecting ideas of defund the police.
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, on that note, I think there's it was today or it is today that the part of the budget for, I think, things beyond just the police, but like a bunch of city things. I think that is being or has been released like as of today. I don't have the data at the ready, and maybe it's not even available for like the general public yet. But what comes to mind right away is like, okay, well, if there's going to be another $48 million, and actually, correct me if I'm wrong, is this an additional $48 million on top of what already they would be getting, or is this like there's going to be $48 million flat out? Because it doesn't seem like enough money, honestly.
Yeah, $48.3 million budget increase for the Toronto Police Service.
Right. Okay, so like, what is that going towards, right? It's like, are they going to be doing more of the same, which apparently is not working, because if it was, they wouldn't need to be or they wouldn't even need to advocate for an increase in like budget.
True.
Or are they going to be putting this towards more like forward-thinking initiatives, like actually setting up good community policing programs in a neighborhood like Regent Park, among others? Like, honestly, I feel like every neighborhood should have community policing. Like,
Definitely.
All police should just work the same beat all the time.
Yeah.
Because then you would know how things normally are, you know the people, and then you know what's irregular.
Yeah.
Like, this honestly makes me think of the TTC, one of the announcements that's always going on, which is like, if you see any suspicious activity, be sure to basically like rat this person out to whoever is around. I'm like,
right.
You don't know that. Like, you don't know this person. You don't know what kind of day they had. You don't know whether they have some kind of condition that gives them like a physical tick.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
It's just an awful symptom of urban living. And it's like, if police who have all this power and literal power, right? And guns, which most people don't have legally,
right?
Like, they should know what is normal in a community. They should know what is not normal. You know? They should have these standards of what's safe. Like, residents of a community know what's normal in the community. Right. Police are just these satellite people that shuffle around, and it's like they should have a way better, like, communal understanding and communal place.
I totally agree. And so do many Torontonians. This article highlights the fact that a coalition of organizations and community members around the city organizing under the banner "Another Toronto is Possible" gathered last Tuesday in front of City Hall to sort of debate where the budget money is going. I don't know. People are screaming at the top of their lungs about the allocation of money. We need more effort on social services. I can preach that to the high heavens.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, clearly you're not the only one. People are going to go into the places where legislation is supposed to be happening.
Right.
trying to advocate for change in the right direction.
Speaking about positive change, though, in the right direction.
Ooh, thank you. I need some of that.
Yeah, totally. An Ontario judge has denied the request to clear Kitchener encampment cited under the charter. Let me say that again.
Okay.
Basically, what happened is an Ontario judge has denied a municipality's request to clear a homeless encampment in Kitchener, Ontario.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big deal, right?
I would say so.
Because, yeah, you've got, at least in Toronto, you've got a lot of people sleeping in certain locations, and then they're being kicked out of parks. Their tents are being pulled apart, but it is a human right to, have a roof over your head or have some type of protection from the elements.
As, honestly, just, depressing as that is, that these people are having to resort to, basically a sheet of plastic being their comfort, being their lodging, you know? And not only are they not being given something more substantial and something that they're deserving by the city, but the city is spending resources to dismantle what they're trying to have for themselves. And, I'm most aware of this happening most recently in the Allen Gardens area, which is not too far from here.
Yeah.
I saw this video again on good old Reddit. It's a great place for community news of city staffers being sent in and just not just removing the tents but destroying them. And what this was in the fall.
Yeah.
What do you expect people to do in a time like this where tomorrow or the next day it's going to be hitting -20?
Exactly. Look what just to do. I printed out the forecast.
Beautiful, but also terrifying.
Right.
We've got where's today? Today's the 1st. I should know that.
Today's Wednesday, right?
Yeah. So we've got a -4, -6. Tomorrow apparently going to be up to 1, but then -16.
Ouch.
Friday a high of -13 and a low of -18, and this is pre-wind, folks. So that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that's going to be dropping off as of Saturday, which will be apparently all day -4, and then Sunday +4.
Huh.
So we've got a swing of over 20 degrees in a span of a day and a half. When you are on the street, 5 minutes is too long in that weather. When you don't have a place to go where you can be warm and have warm food, that's just a sigh.
The weather in Toronto has been, overall, globally, has been really, really strange, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's at that point. I'm sure we can get into that.
We will get into climate change at some point for sure.
This has just been kind of the taste test episode, I guess.
Yes.
We want to say who we are, say what we're doing, say what's come before, say where we're going to be going in the future.
And there are some positive things happening, and it will be good for us to highlight that because Jesse and I are both lovers of the arts and creativity, and I think it's going to be important with news to not all have lots of fully negative, 100% negative news.
No,
but there are a lot of negative things happening, right?
Yeah, I feel like what we're really here to do is to expose the truth on certain things that don't really have a place otherwise.
Well said.
And what we want to do is show, I would say what at least I want to do is give a platform for those who are really accomplishing good work.
Nice.
But might not be able to get the recognition beyond their immediate circles. We need to share the successes, and we also need to share the points of criticism, why these people are doing what they're doing.
Jesse just summed it up perfectly. We are coming down as well to our ending time, aren't we?
Looks like it.
But it's good to discuss things, get things out.
Yeah. I'm hoping that we can continue doing good work here as well. Maybe not as good as those, on the front lines of these issues, but it's I think people need to know, in hard, dark times that fights are being won for the right causes. And, it's really inspiring, and it can be really hard to take the effort to make a change when it seems like all around you is doom and gloom and loss.
Totally. Well said, and I will also add to that one really good thing that's come out of this crazy couple of years is we're talking more about life and everybody's circumstances, and we're just talking a little bit more about socially what's going on in the world, and I think that's really, really crucial.
Yeah, and I would say that positive change, I feel like you get to this point where things are so bad that you just can't deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
And then change happens.
Yeah.
And it can be slow and it can be really hard to watch it have to get that bad. But when it starts to turn around, it can feel so good.
Well said. Well, thank you for joining us, tuning in, listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hope to. We hope. I was going to say we hope to see you next week, but we didn't see you this time. You saw us though. I have all been forgetting that y'all out there in the video world are able to watch this if you so choose. And we hope you come back and hope you enjoyed this show and hope you enjoy future shows. Do we have a way to be contacted in case anybody would like a platform or would like to contribute ideas? I think we do.
An email would be wonderful.
And there's also a message service for the show that, because this is our first show, we haven't used it, and personally I forgot how to use it, and then it was there until this moment. I think we can be messaged live on the show, and this show has not been live. However, they generally will be, so we would theoretically be able to respond to and or incorporate content into shows kind of on the fly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, likewise.
Great.
Thank you, Ryan. I've had a good time and really appreciate your co-hosting contribution.
My pleasure. It's been a joy working with you so far. Check you later, guys.
Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out all of our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.